Hey guys, this is Brett Young, Taylor Young, and Rod Erb, and you're tuned in to the Be Extraordinary podcast with Urban Young. Real conversations about business, leadership, and personal development. Extraordinaires, welcome back to another episode of the Be Extraordinary podcast. You are in for a treat this morning if you're driving, if you're at night, if you're at home, if you just tucked your babies into their crib and you're ready to get full blast. Good luck. You're not going to be able to go to sleep because we have a special guest for you today. And it's a packed house. I've got Mr. Rod Erb, Taylor Young, and the man, the myth, the king of the mortgage space, Mr. Robby Sampson. Man, I am... Number one, I'm humbled that you're here, but I'm fired up and I got goosebumps all over my body because you're just a great human and we're going to have such a blast today. So thank you for coming, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Dude, I think the last time we did this was, what, 2 years ago?
I don't know, man. It was 2 or 3 years because I couldn't even remember where you guys were at.
Yeah. No, I had to help you up the stairs. Yeah. Second or third floor.
One of the first dozen episodes we ever recorded.
Unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's always rich when we're together.
I got to do better. I got to do much better to get invited back like once a year.
Well, I mean, we've not had a lot of repeat business. I mean, you coming back.
Wrong side of the building here, Robby. No, it's good. We still don't have a sign out front, by the way. We have prided ourselves off this we don't have a sign. And I think at this point, it's just like I haven't bought a lottery ticket either ever. And it's not because I don't want to buy a lottery ticket. It's just that now I have bragging rights that I don't buy lottery tickets.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so maybe that's it.
Well, now I definitely will not forget that because I looked at 3 elevators. I looked at all. I read every name, and I'm like, Urban Young, man, they must have went out of business. I don't know what's going on. They're not around. I called Tay. He didn't answer. I called you. I knew I could get you.
Oh man, I'll remember you said that. I'm going to take that soundbite. I'm going to send it to the whole team now, just to make sure everybody knows that I'm accessible. That's perfect,
it, baby.
Man, well, dude, I'm just. This is going to be fun today. And I know schedules are packed, and in all honesty, I appreciate you making the time and the space.
Thanks,
and between being a super dad and the sports game that you're always running back and forth to, and then running an incredible organization and being an elite performer, I'm just thank you for making the space to hopefully give back and give the listeners some juice today, which would be really cool.
That'd be great. That's the gig.
It is the gig. It is the gig. Well, man, for the listeners at home, if you don't know Robby Sampson, if you are in the real estate, the mortgage space, it's probably because you're brand new.
Or you live under a rock.
Yep. So, but Robby has been one of the elite performers in the state for years, and he's one of the top mortgage originators in the country. And so the ability to be able to pick his brain is just such a high level, beautiful thing that we get to do, and we're blessed to be able to do that off camera. But man, you get to be able to peel back the onion on a high achiever, a big achiever, and be able to learn how they think and kind of get into the crevices a little bit of these principles of success and these different things that you hear. And hopefully today we'll be able to do that. And selfishly for me, and I don't know if this is okay, but I'd really love to delve into what I believe is one of your biggest gifts on, which is coaching and which is developing talent, and is to pour into a team member who shows that they're willing to do the work and that they're a canvas that's, wants to be, painted on, and you have the ability to be able to morph and shift and be able to take direction. Because I just look at the team that you've assembled over the years, and with Core of being part of that organization and being such a big mentor and a coach, it just seems like you love pouring into people and coaching.
I think what started as coaching has just become a calling. I don't know what else to say. I think that a few years back when we started having a lot of success, and I see a space that's very private, that people don't talk a lot about, the ins and outs of the mortgage businesses and how successful people can be in it, and same in real estate, even though there's a little bit more of that in the front of the line, so to speak, with real estate. But on the mortgage side, man, it's I think it was an industry that people wanted to keep under wraps and not let people know it was really, really lucrative. And it's like, man, what it did for me and my family, and man, it's just time to pay back, bro.
Right?
So yeah. So coaching was always great, and then I tried to run from coaching for a bit, and then I just kept getting called back to it, because right now I'm in the middle of I haven't coached in 7 months, nationally. Right?
Yeah, you took a hiatus from that a little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm like, right now I'm looking at 2 companies, and I'm like ready. So I'm excited. New stuff to share, new things to pour into. It just fills my cup. So
I was going to ask you, do you feel like that's a void in a sense of like you take a step back and then you're like, hey,
it also keeps you sharp, right? Like coaching. I'm not Tom Ferry, who doesn't. Tom, you the guy, bro. But I'm like, Tom doesn't do real estate, So like, I think the best coaches are the people that are also practitioners. So, I've prided myself on making sure that
stay in the game.
I'm doing my best to stay in the game, take loan applications, talk to clients, talk to realtors, and then that's that ultimately creates what I want to have happen in the organization, which is successful loan officers.
Mm-hmm.
I think about along that continuum though, it's like you've become an elite coach. But I think before that, and I think what I admire about you and respect at a high level is you had to be elite at being coached before you kind of morphed into that elite coach. And knowing your journey and knowing your story intimately like we do, that has always been something that, when people speak, it's like, okay, this guy's got some credit. Let me listen to what he has to say. But there's a difference when someone's walked the talk to the letter and to the decimal, to the period. I hold you in that regard. I know these guys do too. It's just, I think to myself, an elite coach, you've earned that. But I think before that, it's preceded by, I was elite at being coached.
Yeah.
Speak about that.
Well, the program I came from, great organization. I missed the core. I love the core, but it was just time for me. I've been there. I've been there 10 years, and it was time for me I coached for the last 5, so it was time to.
Before you go, can you share where you were when you entered core, and then where you ended
and why?
I could talk all about all those things. It's ups and downs of why and how. So I got introduced to the core. If you haven't heard of it, the core training, it's one of the most exclusive loan officer and real estate coaching programs in the country. And so in 2014, I got introduced to it from the owner of the previous company that I worked for, the mortgage firm. Took me to a meeting in San Antonio. Long story short, I think I told you this story. This guy, Rick Ruby, who owns, he's the president of the core, gets on the stage, and it's like towards the end, and he's trying to get buy-in because he wants students to join. And there's probably 300 of us in the room, and he says, "Everyone stand up who made $1 million last year." And I'm like, there's going to be like 3 guys stand up. This is incredible. But like 100 guys stood up. Whoa. This was in 2014, man. Into November of 2014. I was like, they're either lying or whatever's happening, I want to be a part of it. So I took an interview, got in, quickly became there's something called the Dragon. I don't know if I told you this. I think I have. So there's this Dragon. It's the award. You get coached for 6 months at a time in the core, and then a Dragon goes to the top student in the class. And so every 6 months, I won it 3 out of the first 4 semesters.
Oh wow!
That's because my business just grew. You were saying, well, what? Probably before the core, I was closing 150 to 200 units. I don't know what the volume was, Tay.
Annually,
150 to 200 units. So 12 to 15 units a month as a producer in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. Didn't understand scale or growth. Kind of knew that was probably a play. But I had a really good loan officer, assistant, loan partner is what we call them, who really helped me with the paperwork to where I could go out and do my thing. But I didn't hire anyone else. So you get to the point where you can't work anymore. You can't prospect anymore. So it was, that 12 to 15 closings a month spot. And then when I got introduced to the core, my business went from like 15 closings to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 closings per month. But I started, so in 2018, see, the core is they have to knight you. You don't just say, "Hey, I want to coach." The coaches have to say, "Yo, this guy's a really good student, Rod." Mm-hmm. And so winning those, I was the valedictorian of the 2-year class. They do a graduation every 2 and 5 years because it's a 2-year program, but no one ever left it because the results were so incredible. Everyone stayed. And so when people ask, well, how do you get the most out of students? Like, why is the core coaching so good? It's accountability was the piece. So there's so many other coaching companies across the country, and they all have great, great pieces. But what made the core so special was high level accountability. Me as a coach or me as a student with 3 others on the call, like-minded with similar businesses that you're learning and growing from, every 2 weeks. So was a student of that for 4 years, one of the top students. Then I became a coach, the last 5 years. And obviously we went through 2020, 2021, my business absolutely exploded, but I was structured properly because of the core. The core helped put all those pieces in place. So, Rick Ruby and the team, they changed my, financial life forever.
You stood up at those next ones when they said, "Stand up if you made $1 million."
Yeah, that was really awesome. I've been waiting for that.
Did you say seated? And then they said 2 million, 3 million, 4 million.
No, I didn't do all that.
If you made $1 million, stand up. Everybody else stay sitting. 2 million.
See that was the thing with the core. That's one thing about the core that where it kind of Rick didn't know that he was creating monsters financially. Like Rick's sweet spot was you can't get in the room unless you're making $250,000 a year, and he wants to take them from $250,000 to $1 million.
Love that.
He didn't know that people were going to start making going. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like a couple of guys made 9, 10 million in 2021, and he was like, "I'm not." So then eventually, like NFL, NBA, the players don't listen too well to the coach, and so Rick's never did well with that, which created, he didn't create a level 4. There was level 1, 2, and 3. Level 4 should have been non-producing branch managers who want to build an organization, but Rick was never into that. So that's ultimately there was a few of us that left the core, and we went out and we've been chilling on the sideline for 6 or 7 months. So then I wanted to get coached. I interviewed with a company as a student, and then when I was on the call, they were like, "You can't be a student here, bro. You got to be a coach." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not ready for that. I want to be a student for a while."
No
so
kidding.
I've just kind of been behind the scenes for a bit. Getting stuff together. I think I have some really good new, fresh content and ideas, and can't wait to share that, in the next probably 30 days.
Dude,
so
that's
can't talk about that,
you,
but
man.
yeah, we're excited.
So you say you have some new, fresh content. Like this is fresh on my mind too, of like creating space to be able to take these ideas and harbor them, create them, articulate them, refine them. What does that look like for you? Is that just an ongoing brainstorm? Do you have sessions where you sit down to kind of scope that? How do you keep track of that? Do you write it?
Yeah, write it. I'm a better notebook guy, or notes in the phone sort of guy. Yeah. So like something hits me at some point, or I hear something that's really, really great. I have a really good notes section on my phone, and that's really how I keep up with it. I'm not with my video guy or media manager, David, we do sit down and we create, good video. What's going to be our next video content? And we'll create a series. But as far as the ideas for like the coaching and what I think's working and what scripts need to be said and all those sort of things, those just come to you. You know what I mean? And so when they come, I try to do a really good job of putting pen to paper and making sure that at some point then I use it.
So you're in the practice, but you're almost in the practice now from the lens of seeing what's going to help the next person behind you and be able to give to the next person. So, So in the craft of being a practitioner, you're almost approaching every rep from a place of like, hey, how can I take this, capture it, and synthesize it in to be able to help somebody develop?
Like you're putting that in words. You're way smarter than me, bro. So, yeah, that's
he said synthesize. I'm
synthesize.
Like, what are we T-Pain?
I'm like, what's going on?
Auto-tune over
green stickers over here. What's the story, man?
I was going to Google, dog. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah.
Hey Siri, what's the definition of synthesize?
Hey, so I wanted to talk about, and by the way,
we're always taking it to at this point. Anything I take, I'm like, man, what can I give to my people?
Yeah. Awesome. And you went from, obviously you had the one-man producer with a lone partner. Then you go scale a team. Mm-hmm. And then where does your team sit now as far as scale and size and scope for the listener going to gather?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that before we jumped on. My team, in my branch, we have, it's like 33 of us.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We were as much as 52 in the branch. And obviously, market compression, margin compression, rates going up, created, some people left, and some people we didn't. Hate to say it, man. You don't always stay on the mountaintop, bro. Like you start to come down, and we had to part ways with people, which was tough. It's always toughest. Last 2 years have been tough, dude. Yeah,
no doubt. And you've been very open about those challenges with us to say that's not easy, right? And that's
it's ego, man.
Yeah.
Like your ego gets in the way, right? Like it's like, dude, I brought them here. Like I feel a huge obligation to make sure that I never quit on them, and I give them every opportunity and resource to continue to grow within our organization, and that I do everything I possibly can in my power to keep people that is under my watchful eye.
Yeah, no doubt. But I was going to ask specifically just the transition from scale. First of all, why scale, right? I think about that a lot with us and some of the challenges that we've faced, because it brings almost a new set of challenges. You mentioned that you're coming in with a new lens, but it's not just you go do more of the same things and get just more of those results. To me, it seems like every level you hit, you kind of have to just change your vantage point, whether it's now I'm looking through the lens of not how can this help me as a producer, but this is how I can coach and help these producers. And so instead of just my production, now I can have 10 people's production that I can help them. So I'm just curious at maybe why scale, and what have been some of the biggest challenges over the last couple of years as you hit that 40, 50 team member, 33 team members of kind of taking what's worked for you, but also sharing it and having other success stories.
Well, why scale is the obvious. Eventually, you can't do it all.
Yeah.
You know, so that's probably number one for me. It's like there came a point where I couldn't field every complaint and every problem and every issue that we were having in our organization. And I also, on the flip side of that, I couldn't be a part of every celebration and every birthday and every anniversary and all of those big wins. So that was the hardest part of growing the business, is not being sometimes directly tied into each of our employees, Taylor. Like, I wanted to have these deep, partnerships, right? Not just, this is not like, you never catch me saying, hey dude, you work for me. It's always, we work together, that you're with me, And so the obvious answer was I struggled being all things to all people, And so, I hired an ops manager first to create some space between myself and my sales team, because I still believe my job is to pour in and be really, really a positive piece. And loan officers oftentimes have issues. By the way, sometimes these practitioners, like my ops manager, Christine, was a practitioner before. She was a loan partner processor. She did it all. And so she knew more when some of the loan technical issues, once you're not always working on loans, I don't know every single detail. So having Christine as a buffer to help solve problems, and then to only filter out what needed to be brought to me was really, really big.
You saw that move quick.
Oh my gosh, top 3 hires we've ever had. Having her. So
that space. So immediately that space allowed you to.
Space put me in a better mindset.
Yeah.
Space put me in a spot where it's like, okay, I can focus again on what I really, really love to do.
And play again.
Right. So which was recruiting and coaching and pouring into my people and kind of having a fun spot in the house, rather than everything being like, I was like HR, dude. I don't want to be HR in my company. Yep. Christine's really good at that.
Yeah. Man, that's
Gary Keller talked about, I think it was like how to think like a CEO. It was like one of the 3 things he feels like his responsibility was, and one of them was bring energy every day. And I feel like you do a really good job of that. But did you feel like you weren't bringing the energy?
I wasn't. I was every day I was dealing with problems.
Yeah.
Everything was like, this loan's dying, this realtor's mad, this we can't get this loan closed on time. I'm dealing with this. And so bringing Christine in and her putting structures and systems in place that gave me that buffer, allowed them to be better. They at first they thought it was going to not work, that we weren't going to be a better organization with Christine doing those things.
Yep.
And they thought it needed to be me. And even me, like I had some of that fear too, that
I was going to ask
is this going to work?
If I want it done, I got to do it kind of thing.
Yeah, do it myself, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure some of us have a little bit of that in us. But I've really gotten comfortable not having to be the guy anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be the guy. I want to see people win. So, that was probably number 1 was having the buffer. Number 2 was putting me back in my lane to do the things that I love to do.
Yeah.
I think those 2 things probably at the top of the list. We could get more granular, but you know what I mean?
So no doubt. And sometimes we'll talk about this. And I remember a couple of years back where I was having a hard time, because as we grew, the volume grows. And without that shift, it's almost like this disincentive to grow, because you're just going, I'm just going to have more problems. And I'm going to have to handle these more problems, right? And until you make that shift and start putting people and empowering people in leadership positions, I remember feeling that, where I was like, man, I don't know. Scale for us means that my lifestyle's worse, not
So
better.
was Biggie right?
Wait, was that Biggie? We can't be making Diddy references on the thing, man. Like,
No, we're not allowed anymore.
Yeah.
I said Biggie, bro.
I know, but all I hear is more money, more problems. That's Diddy, isn't it?
Pretty good there.
But so I remember that moment in our business a couple years ago. We were like, man, I don't want to. If we're going to grow, I don't want to grow like this, because that just became more of that, and I not dealing with the volume of your personal production, I'm just proud of seeing you step back and make that shift from saying, hey, I'm clearly an achiever. I'm good at this. I'm MJ in a lot of aspects down here in Florida, and I know there's plenty other big dogs, but you're a big dog. But I'm going to step back and kind of recreate my identity within the space.
Yeah.
It just couldn't have been easy. That's all.
And remember also, you lose people along the way of that scale and that growth. Some people don't love that. Yes. Your partners, you know, your referral partners oftentimes don't love that you're not so accessible as you were before, that there's a buffer. But what they don't realize is that buffer is what's making us great. That buffer is what's keeping me out there, you know, cutting edge, keeping me on top of my game, keeping your files moving in a great direction, allowing us to communicate at a really high level, you know, like those things, you gotta look at both sides, right? So,
and that, because there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who can relate to that, and that's a big deal. What does that, first of all, the mindset on that of like allowing, do you go into that knowing like, hey, some will, some won't, you know, next? Or do you look at it going, all right, I know I'm going to lose some, but I'm going to do the best I can? Yeah. Are you fanatical about over communicating of why there's a value to them and how it's going to be better? Like, talk to me about the mindset of if somebody is in that spot where they, you know, I even look in our business of like, they send over a request via email, and we want them to go through a landing page. We even get pushback on that because it's like, this is how I've always done it. I like to do it this way. I want to know it goes to you. I do a RAID receipt so I can make sure I know you got it. And it's like, well, it's like and you have to continually try to funnel people into a place where you're going to have the most optimal ability to be able to help. But that's sometimes a challenge. Talk to me about what that looks like when you're doing that.
Well, I'll tell you what we did, initially, that sometimes failed. And there's, this is just in my opinion, right? You go meet with a new referral partner and you're trying to teach them your way, right? Put them to a landing page, send them to a web link. We want a 3-way text, or we want an email introduction, whatever that is. Oftentimes you don't get the referral partner if you say you need to do it my way. I don't have enough relationship yet with that potential referral source to be able to tell them how I think it should be done. Although I know that should be done. So oftentimes what we try to do, BY, is like, hey, we're a good fit. We feel like we're going to do some business together. And I often will ask, well, how do you refer your current referral source? So they tell me, this is how we like to do it. And I say, hey, let's do it like that for now. So my team's sometimes like, hey man, why are you doing it like that? I'm like, there's a little method to my madness. And so for the first 2 or 3 times, then I'm building relationship, and we're working these clients together. We're building a partnership, and then the magic question is like, hey Tyler's here too. Tyler Young, you guys know him. He's sitting over here. Tay. So it's like, hey Tay, are you open-minded to professional advice? I asked that. I asked the realtor source that. I asked the builder that. I asked the financial planner that, and they're like, yeah, of course.
Question,
like,
full stop.
Yeah, and then I just say, hey, I think there's maybe a better way. Could we try another way to get these referral sources working with us initially? Like we like an email introduction. Like I want an email introduction because I can give them exactly what I want said in the email. Like Triangle for Trust is big for me. Like, hey, this is why I use Robby. Right, this is why you should use them. This is the snags it's going to keep us from having. And then I try to, after 3 or 4 times of building some relationship with that realtor and doing it their way, then we try to lean in that way. And then they're in my wheelhouse, in my system. They're like, yo, this really, really works. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. Let's do it your way going forward. So we've worked really hard on that trial and error. People want to do it their way. And by the way, that's never going to change, man. Right. No. Like there's always going to be business people that fire you. By the way, they'll never tell you they fired you. They just fired you, which is the worst. Like I'd rather be fired to my face than just I can't get a hold of you anymore. So, I think there's a reason to build the relationship first, ask the right questions, and then ask for, hey, are you open-minded to a better way possibly? And they say, yeah, cool. Really try it. And then if it works, great. You ever, sometimes I sit around, dude, and I'm like, would I use me?
It's a good question.
Like you ever thought of, you probably think about it all the time. I'm like, would I like the way we funnel? If I was the client, would I like the way we funnel this down and how I would get treated? Do I like it that way? Like me, I'm terrible because I want high touch, like high level of great communication and service, but I also want a great rate and great terms. And by the way, just that's not how the mortgage business works. Like you get great service at a really high level with a slightly higher price. So I'm always thinking,
that really that different with every industry though? You know, like,
probably not, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I assume it's not. So, you know, we have to, then you just have to stick to what's your model. You know, like we're going to be high touch, white glove service. That's what I want. Like that's so that I feel like I can take a little bit better care of all the people that work with me. You know,
think that.
I'm not gonna sit here and I've seen the other side, right? I'm sure there's discount insurance companies all across the country that people think that's the right way until there's a problem, until there's an issue, until they can't get a hold of the people they want to get a hold of, you know?
Right.
Is it really worth it?
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry,
1-800 number. Good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that the real number? Is it 1-800 good luck?
That would be good.
It actually is 1-800 good luck.
You know what? But I also think the older that I get, and what you just said, here's a model for everything. We don't need to resist the fact, like in the insurance business, some people are like, oh, well, captive, you know, doesn't work, or and independent's the way to go. And it's like, I don't know. Like just you're in the game, you're in the game. So play the game to win your game. Don't play it with this, you know, noble cause that you need to prove to everyone that your way is the best.
Yeah. There's pros and cons of every model.
There's a pros and cons of every model.
Right. I tell my team, my sales force all the time, like, hey, listen, dude, you're not going to have the best white glove service and us have this great client experience and then be the cheapest.
Yeah.
Like, we're just not going to do that.
Right.
Like, it's not going to be our
I think
model.
And what if that? I'm sorry. Well, what a challenge it would be is because a lot of people lead with something, but then they can't deliver on that. Right? It's like you're selling a value prop that's you're not going to be able to deliver on.
And that's why when I meet with the realtor, I'll do it their way for a couple of times, but long term, I can't do it that way.
Right.
It has to eventually be the way that I believe has been highest and best use for a mortgage company that does, 80 to 100 transactions every single month.
Well, and if you're selling a frictionless experience and you believe your way is the only way, and you're willing to be rigid on your way out of the gate, you're probably not going to have very many people.
No,
right? It's like let me get it in however it's got to get in.
Yeah.
And then let me optimize and sort through the people that are, number one, they're open to a more efficient, less friction way, or because it's my way, it becomes a little bit more accurate because it's my system and I have control over how we follow it through. I just hear that and I see that. We see that every day here, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, they're not sending this right information. Who cares? Get the lead, right? And then let's sort out what it looks like after that.
There had to have been a lot of pain for them just to come in right off the get and do it your way. There had to have been a lot of pain.
Right.
You
That's
know what I'm
very
saying?
true.
Because most of the time when we meet a potential new referral source, there's not a lot of pain.
fine.
They've
got a guy.
They got a guy.
Yeah.
We're building relationships. You can't come in, with this. Some people can, I guess, like Geico, but you can't just come in and say, hey, we're going to do it my way. I just think that doesn't work initially.
Well, and what you said too, it's like, we'll do 2 or 3 files your way.
Yeah.
We'll build some rapport. Let me earn the right. Let me get to know you really well to know how hard I can push you to, maybe not even push you, but just suggest, hey, are you open to some professional advice? Just like you said, we've been doing this a little while. We've built our platform for this. We know how to get this done and make it very, very, convenient for you.
Yeah.
Are you open to, chatting about that?
Yeah, I could tell that's your wheelhouse. You like that. You're constantly knocking down commercial doors, big commercial doors, right? Like hospitals and all these things. They're not going to just shake it down and say, hey, we like you. We're going to do it your way. No problem, right? It doesn't work like that, right?
Well,
As a matter of fact, you can get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Hit the brakes.
Should I leave my shoes or get my shoes when I leave, right?
So I wanted to transition something we were talking about before. We're bouncing around a little bit. We talked about coaching, and you talking about there's 2 different versions. You have your own organization that you're building, and you have people that work with you within that organization. So although you've taken a step back from professional coaching for the last 7 months, make no mistake, you're very involved with the day-to-day and the loan officer success and pouring into those guys and gals. So, but you talked about a little bit about sweet spot, what you've been very successful with throughout your career, say the last 10, 12 years, was taking loan officers that have a start, maybe doing a couple loans a month and potentially growing their business and doubling it. So I just wanted to, somebody comes in, they're doing 2, 4, 5 loans a month, getting them to 6, 10 consistently, and how big of a deal that is for them. But what are the things that you see of like why you're set up and gravitate towards that person? And what are the things that take somebody from 2 to 5 loans a month to 6 to 10 in a real way?
great question.
Well, I think I'm set up for that personally as a person because oftentimes those 2 to 3, 4 units, people a month don't have ego. They're humble, they're looking for a better way, right? Like I want people that are curious, right? Like some of our culture pieces are, are you curious? Are you gonna be a good fit for our culture? Are you competitive? And are you open to coaching? So we start with those 4 things in mind with every single employee that we bring on, every single loan officer that we hire. We start there. And so then when you get down to the nitty gritty of coaching, what I've learned is oftentimes, man, really big producers have really big egos. And they think that their way is the only way. So me personally, over the last 12, 14 years, my sweet spot was like finding someone who was just wide-eyed and open to a way that could potentially, really grow their business. And so we kind of started there. Most of the time what I saw, Tay, was like less than 3 years in the business and 2 to 4 units a month. That was the number I was looking for. Oftentimes, 2 to 4 deals a month, 20 years in the business, they're just not changing.
Right.
They're not open for.
There's a whole, we leave mom a little bit, a whole little level of therapy.
Yeah. So dealing with that, you know what I mean?
We got a whole new set of issues we got to talk about. We're going to hang mortgages on the shelf for a second. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So with that in mind, bro. So then
You're funny today, man.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good.
Decaf, baby.
Hey, are you sure that? Are you sure you didn't get one?
Second cup, I go decaf.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just because you like the taste, or
Second one, I go decaf.
I like being dehydrated and bitter coffee. Yeah.
I was watching something that actually coffee doesn't really dehydrate you. It's really a myth. That
Really?
they're like, it's just bean and a lot of water.
I thought it was a diuretic.
The Sayat fitness guy. You gotta watch this guy. I've seen you his take on coffee.
There you go.
Yeah,
Man, that could change my life. I'll just keep drinking it.
Right.
Yeah, no, serious. I was like, man, it's a dehydrant. It's gonna do this to me, and I really trust it. I'm gonna send him to you, bro. I don't know his name right now. I'd give him a shout out on Instagram, but his stuff is good, bro. He talks a lot of noise. He's like, it's just bean with a lot of water. It's not really dehydrating you, you dummy. That's how he talks. So I'm like, I like that guy. That's my type of guy. I'm pounding this coffee now.
Oh man.
Yeah. Going back to 2 to 4. What do we do? Like how you're saying, like what are some of the things? That happens?
What's obviously open to coaching? It sounds like
That's a big
they
one.
value. So start there, right? You can't skip that step.
Yeah.
But they're new enough to where they're open
Yeah.
to kind of navigate. But is there? You mentioned accountability a lot. You mentioned. I know obviously the sheer volume of your business. I mean, that's the one thing when we first got introduced. It's like the sheer numbers and volume just blew my mind. Whereas like kind of that old adage, like you think people are doing double what you're doing, but you don't think they're doing like 100 times what you're doing or 10 times what you're doing. And so when I met you, I'm like, I called Brett and Ron, I'm like, yo, I'm messed up. Like I got to talk to somebody. We're not doing enough,
I remember that. That was the goal planning.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Definitely remember that.
I remember you'd send someone a text like, yo, who's this guy?
Yeah,
I met this cool guy. He's got a sick watch on.
No. I thought I was doing one of our guys, Matt, who we all love, a favor, and he like, hey, can you go to this event for me? Like, yeah, no problem. Go to the event, help you. I'm like,
You got some nuggets.
what is going on?
You got some nuggets.
Here's the biggest thing I learned about loan officers that do 2 to 3 deals a month that are open-minded to growing is they don't track anything. They don't track data.
Oh, man.
So, open-minded. Number 2, you got to track things. So when I start, by the way, tracking data, you gotta have some discipline to do it. So starting to track your data every day, like how many conversations did I have? How many people did I meet today? How many leads did I get? Right? Creates discipline in that area of your life,
be writing this
which
down.
actually winds up then creating the result that you want. It happens and they don't know it's happening. Because I walk around and if they don't have their clipboard in their hand, I'm like, get your clipboard in your hand, dude, so you can track. You're on the phone. Did you write it down? You can't wait at the end of the night and write down calls. So it's super, super simple, guys. But them having a clipboard with a list of all the activities, because I believe activities ultimately get result. You can't have all these. I love result-oriented goals, but like you guys know this for me, like I love activity-style goals. Like how many calls did I make? How many people did I talk to? How many letters did I write? How many social media posts did I do? All these things. And so what happens was, they would start seeing, these are all the things I did. The eye opener was, bro, I'm not doing nothing. Robby's requiring 25 phone conversations a week. He's requiring 5, appointments a week. He's requiring us to do this many social media posts and this many notes and this many videos. Like, oh my God. I'm going to step my game up. So then over time, we pour into them enough and help them enough to where they start filling that form out every single week, a new form. And then, oh my gosh, the leads started adding up. Oh my God, I got more leads because, and then like these people, this is how crazy our industry is that these people are closing, they would close, 40 loans last year and not know who their number one referral sources were.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes we think that the person we're talking to the most is our number one referral source. I beg to differ. Most of the time it's not. They're just the most work. You can tell I'm on one today. Some of y'all are just the most work. Like a bunch of wasted time and conversations and leads that are leading to nothing, on a Friday night at 10 p.m.
Robby.
But I get those, we get that agent or those people that they reach out, 10 times a year and we have 3 closings. Like those are incredible people. Why are we not? And so these, oftentimes you just think as a loan officer, the people you're talking to the most is where most of your business is coming from.
Yeah,
so
that's
this weekly tracker becomes the roadmap, which leads to the closings.
Can I ask you, on that weekly tracker, it says type of activity.
Yeah.
Did I do the activity? Outcome of the activity? Like, no.
The outcome is the second form is the leads.
Okay.
All of these activities, bro, like the face-to-face meetings, et cetera, I'm hoping it leads to a lead.
Do you leave do you leave it off on purpose because you want it to be non-outcome oriented?
Absolutely. So they see like, oh, I had a meeting with Taylor, and then next week I want to see on the lead tracker, I got a lead, John Smith. I got John Smith to lead. Did Taylor refer me?
That's all you care about is that ratio. How much activity versus leads?
That's right.
Yep. And there's a number that shows. Do you know what that number is as far as like average loan officer in your organization that does 200 calls and they get 2 leads? Like, do you know that ballpark?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, realtors are so open to meetings. Like right now in the game, if I made 10 either warm meeting, like realtors or builders or whoever I knew, I would get 5 out of 10 would meet with me. Wow. The problem is what I'm learning is, like I'm coaching a group of some of my legacy guys right now, mostly all girls really, besides there's 6 of them and one's a guy, the rest are girls. What I'm learning is right now, everyone's just been so burnt and so hurt that no one's making calls.
What do you mean by that?
Like they're just burned out, bro. Like we ran so hard in 20 and 20 and 2021. Yeah, rates up and down.
Inventory.
Just looking at the CPI reports, hoping that rates are going to drop, and all these pieces, and people just get burned. And so like I feel like my job right now is like the mortgage business, dude. It's just a hospital for the sick people, and I gotta come in and like. Jesus!
Therapy.
Use that.
Therapy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's therapy. So, we're on and so what I challenged them to do, we started this 2 weeks ago, just give me 1 rep a day. It's really easy to read about doing push-ups. That doesn't get you good at push-ups, right? So like I'm telling them like, hey man, I can sit here and give you all these great coaching nuggets, but I can't pick up the phone and make that call. I can't make you go to that networking meeting. I can't make you put that post out. And so, dude, they're starting to get their mojo back. They can see the small light, through the end of the tunnel. And we're just really, really focused on like loving, dude, we're so emotionally retied to outcomes that it's breaking the back of entrepreneurs in our country. We're so dude, I walked in my son's room. Let's tell you this morning. I met Inky Johnson 2 weeks ago. I think you guys probably saw that, which is incredible. If you don't know him, he's my guy, bro.
Yeah.
So his son and my son were playing each other in a baseball tournament, and afterwards we got some pictures. He kind of poured in the tray a little bit, and I go to my son's room this morning, and in his mirror he says, "Can you be committed to the process without being emotionally tied to the outcome?" Dude, it was in his room, bro. I was like this. I was like, my God. My kid, bro, he's feeling it, dude, and he's been struggling, and I know that he knows he's been struggling some, and so he's sitting there like, and he wrote that out, and I'm like, holy moly! Can you be committed to the process and not emotionally attached to the outcome? So, can you be committed to what you're trying to do right now, and not be emotionally attached to the outcome? If you don't get what you set out to get, will you still stay committed? Mm-hmm. And he's
Are you writing that down, B. Young?
He's leaning.
Send that to
I
me.
think about your son.
So I remember it.
Not to get into detail, but it's not like your son's first rodeo. He's been working hard for a lot of years, and he's very good.
Very good.
But there is a point, and I feel like every athlete's journey, where you hit these skids of, man, I was 100% better last summer.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting that I'm going to do the work, and I'm going to be another 100% better. But you know what?
Yeah.
I'm only 50% better.
Yeah.
And this other kid seems,
That's right.
like there's that burnout moment. It's not just sports or young kids, adult athletes. It's professionals.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You see, my son's sitting in the back of the car, and 3 weeks ago we were in Valdosta, and he did okay. Had a tough tournament, and I look at him, I'm like, man, you okay? And he was like, I'm just working so hard, and it's not working. And he just broke. And I hugged him. I was like, I love you, bro. We got this. It's a long game, dude. I said, the best thing was today. I was like, what was that? I was like, dude, there was no MLB scouts here, bro. You're in the clear. You're lucky. No one was here.
And how old is he?
He's 12.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's a whole nother, we're talking mindset and that sort of thing. But like when it comes to coaching, man, sometimes it's just like, I have this crazy thing on my desk where I have these 2 jars, and one of them has 50 marbles in it, and the other's empty. And by the end of the week, I want to move all the marbles to the other jar. Just a simple,
Something you can see.
visibly see that says, did I do something, this week that really helped move the needle, from a sales perspective, from a recruiting perspective. So just really leaning into these loan officers who, or any salespeople that are out there and they're struggling right now. Like, you gotta track everything you're doing. You gotta work a plan every single day. And then eventually, the results begin to come. And
The
so
marbles is a cool idea, man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I
that's
can't remember what it's actually. There's some sort of, it's a visual something.
Because you get done with every week.
Well, you get a
sometimes-
dopamine hit every time you move one
Yeah,
of them.
you do.
One of those.
But don't you get done with the week sometimes? You're like, I did nothing this week.
Yeah.
But it's not true.
It's not true.
But you're like, it's just nothing. We went backwards this week. We didn't go forward.
Yeah.
I got more problems than I did to start the week. And to be able to have some sort of visualization on whatever leading indicator that in your contextual role moves the needle that, hey, I picked up a weight,
Yeah.
and I moved it 50 times.
Yeah, that's the key. So we're just focused on like just what are we going to do today that's going to help us in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, because rates are high, inventory's low, affordability is a huge issue, and so we just have to play. Can you ride with me and play the long game?
Yeah.
Yesterday, my one of our co-owners of the company said, he was like, we went last year, we had 300,000 loan officers nationwide. As of January 1st, only 180,000.
Get out of here.
LOs. And only in the first quarter of the year, only 90,000 of them closed a loan in the first quarter of the year.
Holy smokes.
So Josh looked at us and he was like, we have not begun to fight. And I'm like, let's go. Like you have to find mentors and coaches, and you gotta just continue to stick to the game plan, right?
Do you remember this cycle from the last time this happened?
This is way worse, bro. Wow. Because home affordability was not an issue, and we had like 17 months of inventory.
Wow, I didn't.
We got 2.5 months.
perspective.
We got 2.5 months of inventory, and we got home. If you're not
Average
making,
price
you're not
is-
making 350, 400. Probably here it's 410, and my market's 360. I remember when houses were 130, bro. Like that all happened quick. So this is a much different. I don't want to get political. I mean, it's like there could be a whole. I think in the next 3 years, man, if you don't get in and buy a piece of real estate, you're going to be in trouble. For every 1% rates begin to drop, there's going to be so many buyers, and it's going to just push values.
The reverse crash.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be a
Patrick but David talked about
really.
it. Yeah.
So it's going to create. There's going to be a massive amount of people jump in the market and buy houses, and it's just going to push the prices up to where people that have normal jobs, I don't know how.
Yeah.
Feel bad.
Yeah. That's
interesting.
Robbie, I got one follow-up question to that whole question that Taylor asked. What's the number one marker when someone that you've decided to develop? What's the number one marker that when they call you answer? What do they need to have?
They got to be competitive. You gotta be
Competitive above all else. Competitive, and let me ask a better question. You got competitive, you got coachable, you got activity, you got the things you mentioned. Is it competitive? You got to be competitive.
No, you're right. It's culture fit for me. They got to be able to fit into our culture.
But they're already on your bus.
Oh, they're already on my bus.
You've decided
yeah.
I'm going to develop.
Oh, it's
these.
coachable. Then it's coachable. Competitive is second.
coachable, meaning they hear what I say and they do what I say.
And they hear what I say and they do what I say.
Spare me what you think you know.
Yeah.
You're coming to me to be coached. I'm committing to develop you.
And if they're coachable, then competitiveness follows suit with that.
Like they call, they're competitive. You know they're coachable and competitive. They call you, you're answering the phone.
Yeah. We ask the right questions to find. There's people say, well, how do you know if they're coachable? How do you know? There's questions you can ask, to figure those sort of things out. Yeah,
I think that's a very subtle diamond in the rough right there. That they actually, it's not just receptiveness to what I'm saying. Because I think some people will try to trick you that they're coachable because
Yeah.
they on the appearance they seem very receptive, but they're not willing or they're not disciplined or they just haven't developed the habit of taking what you articulate and doing it. And so I have watched just different professionals throughout the years who seem to be coachable, but then you find out 6 months later that, well, they're really not that coachable. They're just receptive to be able to hearing what you have to say. But when it comes to actually taking the actions and putting them into, there's a very big difference there.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, like you said it. Like I think that's a whole nother thing. Like, are they gonna? I hate that, by the way. You get them in, you invest all this time, energy, and money and resources, and then you find out 6 months later they're not. You know, they're not what you thought they were. We have to. Sometimes being coachable is, man, you hear this a lot. Like, and I don't know if I don't agree with it. Hey, be a good guy, not a nice guy. I don't think you have to be a nice guy. I mean, a good guy. I think you can be a really nice guy and win really, really big in life. Yeah. And so I think that when you get these guys in and you're coaching them, sometimes the difference is, man, I meet them where they're at. Like, dude, like it's been hard. It's been a grind. And so I come in, I don't just pound on them, right away to do better. We build a partnership and a relationship, and you love them to greatness. You love them to results. You love them and meet them right where they are, and they'll wind up.
So you said that's really important, and that's something that we certainly subscribe to. But when does the patience run out? When does here's where I want you. Here's where you are. I'm coming here. I'm gonna love you up. But how does that continuum work in your eyes? How would you coach a coach?
Yeah, there's only so many times and months and potentially years where I could pour into someone and not, if I'm not at the end of this, if you're saying you're doing all these things that we're tracking and we're not getting the results, dude, you either don't trust me or you're just lying to me. Like, what is it? And so you have to have these conversations, adult conversations, what we call in our office, where we sit down and we say, hey man, like, listen, like you're not doing, we literally have a bar, Rod. We have a three closing per month minimum at our company. Like the average loan officer is closing 0.9 units per month right now nationwide. Our company, our average loan officer closes 6.5 units per loan officer. I think that
that's really good.
Wow. You loving them as long as you can and giving it all you have, and then you get to that point where it's like, hey, well, dude, they're still not getting the results. You sit down and you have ultimatums, you have conversations where it's like, hey, dude, it's not going to work. And I think that's okay. I think we think that we can't have those conversations. That no, man, we're so vested here. We've done so much. I think you guys are learning, hey, so at some point, dude, the rubber better meet the road, and we got to get results.
Yep.
So
yeah, I think
love that answer.
And I think loving on people doesn't mean not having difficult conversations.
Absolutely,
not telling them the truth.
I think it's the opposite. If I genuinely,
dude,
you've always said to me, tough love is love.
Man, just like the people who love me the most are willing to have the conversations that maybe are the most uncomfortable.
Dude.
My wife has no problem having uncomfortable conversations with me, and God bless her for it.
I think that people right now they want that. They're not going to shy away. People want to be held accountable, man. We think that they don't want accountability. We think that they don't want to be held to a higher standard. They really do. Most of them just haven't had it happen because in the last 25 years in our generation, we kept handing out 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th place trophies, and we have to at some point stop it. And we have to have these sort of conversations with people. But man, I rarely, Rod, have parted ways over results, but I've had very stern conversations. Like, hey man, there will not be a place for you on our ship if you continue to put up these types of results. Like, what are you doing all day?
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to tracking data because that's the acknowledgement. I love how there's nothing sexy about it. It's like, okay, we have a plan. Here's the activity, and then you do and track the activity, right? That's there. Let's start there. There's nothing fancy I'm giving you.
No.
There's no special program. This is what I did. It's been successful. This is what 100 out of 300 people in the core did when they stood up and they said they made $1 million a year. Like, I know this works.
Yeah.
But there's something about that it's almost like there's an expectation of like, man, I wish you had a different answer.
Oh, they're always looking for the magic.
You know what I mean?
Like was it magic pill? They're always looking for it from me.
And so tracking data is something that we're dealing with at scale, if you call it, where you go, it didn't used to matter because you know that person's good enough, they're getting results, whatever, we're running fast, and now all of a sudden, no, every call's got to be logged. If it's not logged, it's not a call, right? Like and you get these looks back sometimes of like, why, man? It's like, that's more work, and
I don't care.
I'm doing this stuff anyway, and it's going to be fine. So I'm reminded by the simplicity of that. Like without that, you have no baseline to perform at a higher level. You have no benchmark, right?
Yeah. It's like very entry level, but it's like it's where we have to start. And I've learned, especially in the last year and a half, that if they're not getting 10 leads per month, or most of mine get about 25 leads per month, warm referrals, right? And that's leading to 2 to 3 closings. And so I'm like, well, where do you want to be, Brett? They're like, oh, I want to be at 4 to 5.
We got it.
You got to get to 40 to 50 leads to get to those 4 to 6 closings.
And then what does your activity have to look like?
Right, and then we got to talk about that. So we got to take this form, and we either got to double down or we got to do something smarter. You know, we got to work a little bit harder. And so then sometimes they're like, well, I can't meet any more meetings. Well, then we got to have leverage events. You know, then the next step is leverage events. You got to get yourself in front of 6 or 8 agents and pour into them and do a mastermind and learn to, you know, help them in that way. And then
That's really
helps.
good. So it's like, hey, I'm at capacity for this, and it's like, okay,
they
cool.
say
So
that.
then how do we see more people with less visits?
That's what I did. That's what I had to do. Like I was at capacity, man. Like I was having probably, dude, at my height, I was having 20, 25 consults a week, meeting 20, 25 agents a week. And then finally I'm like, hell with this, man. I gotta leverage myself. And
you said too earlier, you referenced the person that calls on the same person that just doesn't produce, right? It's like, I've got a relationship. I meet with them more than anybody.
Yeah.
And those 10 or 12 visits a month yield 2 or 3 leads.
Yeah.
Right. Where I've got people I meet with 3 times a month that yield 3
yeah.
leads.
Yeah. We always look at this thing where we call it our pyramid, our top 40 pyramid. And so we literally have this pyramid of agents. At the top of the pyramid are all of our pillar referral sources, right? And as it goes down, there's more and more names on the list. And what I'm constantly having them do, we're just, you know, getting a little more granular, but as they're looking at, are these people that I'm supposed to be having conversations with on this pyramid of 40, are they producing the leads for me? And if not, we top grade. Like, hey, get rid of this person, this person, this person, and add new names to your list.
Yep.
You know, we look at 3 things. Like right now, I'm at 25 leads. How do I get to 40 leads? For us, it's 3 things. Giving it away if you're a loan officer. Number 1 is, you know, you got to constantly be upgrading your top 40 pyramid. You got to be having conversations with them every single week and meetings every single week. Number 2, there's a dormant, I call it a dormant realtor list. So a dormant realtor list is people that I've worked with in the past and they just kind of went away and I don't know where they went. And so we have to reintroduce ourselves to them. And then number 3 in our world, you have to be calling on every single listing agent. Like every time you get a new contract, there's a listing agent on it. Are you giving them a really high level of service that at the end of that closing, you close them on time, great communication, no surprises, that they feel willing to have a meeting with you? Those are the 3 lowest hanging fruits to get us from 25 leads a month to that magic 50 number. You know?
So good.
Yeah, in our business, it's very relatable. You get referred by the loan officer, but are you talking to the realtor? Or vice versa, you get referred by the realtor. Are you asking who the loan officer or the title company is to work through networks? And in the case that you know, if you're going wide enough, you can't convince, you have to sort, and somebody's going to fall off that list. If you're calling somebody and you give them an honest effort and it's been 60, 90 days with 0 response, instead of to keep calling them, just swap the name out.
That's right.
And I think that's healthy for the individual too.
Oh my God,
Because you don't want to make that dial when somebody hasn't responded 4 times.
Oh, it's
you don't
terrible.
want to harass somebody
hard.
like that. It's just nobody wants to do that. But if you know that there's a timeline to it, there's a rhythm, there's new, fresh energy, it seems to lighten it up.
That's interesting, right? That he says, you know, he's like, wow. And so it's something we're looking at here when we're talking, we'd be chopping this up tonight or whatever. And I would say, hey, that's an interesting thing, right? It's like you got the lead from the realtor or, you know, the loan officer or the buyer, you know, in that instance. Did you call the other 2 people? You know, like we're always looking for new referral sources, but are we?
Right.
You know, and so that's.
It's
big.
we're
normally not.
What
dude.
lens are you looking through? I got the deal. I'm excited. Now I'm going to close the deal, rather than I got the deal and I'm going to use this deal as a marketing opportunity because I know that that's the most leading indicator activity that I have.
So good.
I've rarely ever had a call like we had, you know, where the insurance is getting about to be wrapped up and bound, where the insurance agent calls and introduces themselves to me and say, hey, I'm going to take great care of this client. I got you. Is this the closing date? Kind of couple of the nuggets, you know, like a little checklist. Dude, that's how we
by the way, I'm so glad we met because Realtor X, Y, and Z that uses you, we had a great connection. I edified you and how good of a job you've done, right? And I'm going to try to make you look good. But
that's how we grow. We're we're just closing the next deal.
Well, yeah, there's a 6 degrees of separation, right? One of my favorite quotes is, wealthy people build networks, everyone else looks for work.
Yeah.
And it's like,
true, bro.
if you're in the referral source game, like everybody's always connected to somebody else. And so if you have 3 opportunities, those should connect you to a dozen. If you're working through the network, I just don't think people usually think to work through a network.
Yeah.
We're so used to like, I'm going to talk to somebody, they're going to give me an opportunity. I'm going to talk to somebody, they're going to give me an opportunity. It's like, there's no leverage with that. You might do that to start the flywheel.
Yeah.
But at some point, there's a much, I don't want to say the word easier because then that distorts the truth of real work, but there is a way that has less friction. For example, if I do a great job and somebody gives me a warm referral and refers in, there's just less friction with that. So, okay, well, I'm going to double down on that and make sure that that's producing high level of attention to that, because there's just probably a better conversion rate. There's probably a better reception to the person at the other end of the line. Making a cold call might be the way that I start this out and get the ball rolling, but there's more friction associated with calling somebody up on a Tuesday that's ever met me to try to get a meeting. If you're new, you have to do that. But if you have 50, 60, 70 people that know you and have worked with you, or maybe, I would ask the question, instead of trying to work with those 50, 60, 70 people, how do you get 300 contacts from that list?
Yeah. We call when my team says I don't have any more time to sell, I say sell through the loan process, which is exactly what you're saying. Well, how do we do that, Robby? Well, you're talking to the buyer. They probably have friends. And then if you do a great job talking to both realtor sources, and then you can build a relationship with the insurance company. By the way, you can build a relationship with the title company who's do the closing. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities here that you don't have to like scheduled, call time.
There's leverage there.
There's leverage there.
It's not who you know, it's who they know.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and I love those things just about an integration. How do I find time, not make time? Because if you really are doing the activity, there's not a ton of time to make if you're really doing it. Robby, if I'm really taking your coaching and you say I got to make 50 calls a week, 25 calls a week, and I'm doing it at a high level, and I'm looking at it and I'm looking at your day, and you then it's that leverage activity and finding time where you're spending 8 minutes on the phone talking about you're doing that anyway, right?
Yeah.
But how about this? Like, this is something I was talking about the guys. Do you like working out? Yes, I like working out. Perfect. Do any of your referral partners like working out? If you work out with them and you can spend time with them doing an activity that you already do. And I know we do that with our team. We're intentional about that. That's one of the greatest gifts of working out with team. We're going to work out anyway. That time's already made, but we can get more leverage from that time that's made if we're intentional enough about it.
That's really good. I like that. Yeah, that's almost back to that events thing where you're trying to get 6, 7, 8 people. It's like, how do you aggregate?
Yeah.
How do you aggregate? That's really cool. I've not heard of that, but that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Like some always said, the best selling is done with the client I'm talking to right now. Right? Like the person that you have in front of you is your best opportunity to get other opportunities.
Because you have their attention.
Right, because I have their attention. Like they came, hey, you guys told me to call you, Taylor. I got your name and number from Robby. Fantastic. And that 8 or 10 minutes of selling to get their insurance business is highest and best use of your time.
Yeah.
Period. Like me in our world, talking to a client on the phone is where the money's at. One of my coaches said, Robby, stay closest to the money. Closest to the money in my world is the loan application. It's talking to the client to get the information I need to be able to close them, right? Like for you, the best, it's whoever that referral source is, that's your, that's that moment.
If I'm just like what Taylor was talking about, if I'm in a transaction and I find I'm working with the lender and I call the realtor, does that count as an activity on your sheet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So selling through the loan process, making those connections through the process, I get credit for that on the activity sheet.
Yeah, and I've made it tougher as time went on because I realized that a lot of people were just building a lot of friendships, and oftentimes in sales and business, you get in the friend zone and you get out of the business zone and you stop getting referrals because you just became friends. And the biggest thing I've ever heard in our industry is because my loan officer didn't ask for, hey, Rod, is there anyone else that that I should be talking to? Rather than saying that at the end of every conversation, they don't say anything. And the referral source, the potential referral source says, oh, Robby, I didn't know you needed a referral.
Golly, man.
That's not asking is they don't know. Oftentimes they just think, oh, we're just having another conversation today.
Yeah, and we don't remind them that we're in the referral game.
Right, we don't remind them that. So if you've had a partnership for 2 or 3 years and you're friends, right? And so if you're not at the end of the conversation at some point weaving it in, hey man, I'm looking for another opportunity. If if you're running into one that you think would be a great fit for me, let me know. If you're not having that conversation, they just don't think they're not nothing against.
Right, it's not their priority.
It's not their priority. They just don't think you need the next lead.
Well, and I think too on that same level, they would want to help you. People want to help. People want to help you.
100%.
But they got to understand how to help you.
Yes.
Right? It's like, don't just assume that they know that you're looking for referrals, and certainly don't take for granted the fact that if you don't ask for help, they won't give it.
Yeah.
But if you ask them, they'll. I've never. Hey man, I'm looking for some help. Do you know anybody? You get an answer every time.
Yeah,
every single time.
Every time. The best salespeople in the world take it one step further and ask for that an introduction, a warm introduction. That's great. Yeah, I do. You know what? I do know someone that's we're trying to get some trucking insurance business, right? So like, hey, I do know a guy that owns some trucks, and you could potentially get a referral. So hey, could you? The one step, the fear is, oh my God, that's great. I'm probably going to get that lead, but the magic is, that's awesome, Rod. Is there any way you could introduce him to me in a 3-way text? Like,
amen.
But we just, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
How bad do you? It's like, I can't sit around and wait for them to call me.
Amen.
It's interesting. I think about the development piece of this is you're going to go wide with volume. You get an activity, you track your activity, and all of a sudden you start having 100 conversations a week. And we're talking about that magic 8 minutes. Your ability to get more out of that 8 minutes is directly correlated to your development, right? You're either better at the gig, you've read more sales book, influence books, whatever it is. So that's the
100, bro.
That's the encouraging word for people to say that 8 minutes isn't going to look the same for everyone.
No.
Right? So if you're 8 minutes talking to a realtor, or I'm coming in new, it's just not going to look the same.
Yeah. Bro, that right there, that's the number one thing in my business that I'm constantly working on, is what that presentation looks like for each type of person. Like, I'm constantly picking that away. Like, well, I normally ask this to this person, but this person, they don't need that. This doctor doesn't need that question. They don't need that nugget. That's part of my script. How can I make it good for them? Like, that's a big deal. Like, because those 8 minutes might be all the 8 minutes we have. Right. And so they better get the absolute best of you, and they got to feel like they're walking away from that conversation with tons of value.
So I was just listening to a Hermosi podcast on prep, and it was fire, by the way. I think Rod shared it. Prepping your team for those conversations. Are you role playing with them? Are you what does the prep look like? You've got an LO who gets this 8 minutes, and it's with this specific type of prospect. Them walking into that appointment feeling prepared. What type of emphasis do you put on that? What type of attention? What does that detail look like? Tell me a little bit about what that process looks like.
We talk about it all the time, bro, but we don't role play it enough. Like, they know, here's the 5 questions in every single buyer's presentation that you have to at least get through, right? Like, who referred you, so that we can love on the referral source, right? What do you want your payment range to be? What's your cash to close range? How much money do you have to put in this transaction? This is good for you guys. What's the number one most important thing to you throughout this loan process? Like, what's number one, right? And so sometimes they say rate. So then I coach on that. And then it's like, then the last, you always have to have a closing question. And our closing question, hey, Rod, we had a great conversation today, man. Hope you learned some stuff from this. Yeah, I learned some stuff from this. Hey, so with that being said, is there anything that would stop me from being your lender? Damn. I do that at the end of every and so we have to, that piece, right? It lets me know, do I have someone that, oh, you know what? I got to talk to another couple of lenders. So then I have a takeaway close for it. So I teach them, yes, 100%, but we don't role play it enough, because it drives me crazy when I hear like the triangle for trust is like the number one thing that I think we have to do when you're getting a warm referral to build more trust with the client that you haven't spoken to yet, that we struggle with. And with that, we role play a lot, but man, the whole piece, we have to spend more time with our sales staff, really owning that. Then they need to hear it. They need to see us on the phone. I think, I don't know if you still do that a lot, but man, I know that in the day they used to hear you on the phone a lot. And so we got to work on that more, man.
And that's such a good clip.
I think that's the most ninja move that I think the amateur misses, and me in a production role misses. And even the recruiting game, to be able to ask that last question, right?
Oh, yeah.
And however contextually you phrase it, but hey, is there anything that would keep you from us working together?
Yeah.
And by asking that, we used to say back in the day and still do, we love yeses, we love nos, we hate maybes, right? And you do all that work for a maybe because you're unwilling to ask that question. You don't know where you sit in the game.
Amateur move.
That's
Amateur. That's an amateur.
The professional wants to know where they can sit in the game, and then they can navigate it accordingly.
Yeah.
It's like, Taylor, I love a yes. I even like a no.
You can even say I like that to the prospect.
I prefer a no. I hate maybe. You're right, because
Yeah.
in our world, dude, we might spend, because they're buying a house, right? They're not buying a T-shirt. So they go to Nordstrom's, they buy a shirt, they make a decision in 5 minutes. Buying a house, they got 3 months to think about it, because it's taking the average client about 95 days to find a home and close on the deal. So they got 95 days to sit and think. What are they? This has turned into a sales thing, right? This
is great.
But what are they? So I want to close them and know that I've earned their business. And if not, I'm okay moving on.
Because you can go spend that time
Yes.
with other people.
I literally tell them that. I say, hey, Rod, that's awesome. You know, I appreciate that you're going to talk to some other lenders. But at this time, I want to let you know that at this point, I don't know if you know this, we're commission only. They're like, oh, I don't know that. And so with that being said, I cannot possibly give you the full resources of my team right now. And so what I have capacity to do is help the 25 families per month that love, know us, and like us and trust us. And so with that being said, man, love you, appreciate you, but I can't work with you right now. Take away close, let them process it. Sometimes they say great, but most of the time they're like, no, hold on, right? But I don't want to work for free, man. Right? Like, can't work. Not that this is all about money, but at some point, dude, I got a lot of people. We got to pay people.
So that's so relatable to like the commercial space, right? Like, so a lot of, and I've done this, I used to do this all the time. You put in like 3 months.
Yeah.
And the submission work, the getting all the documentation, it's very similar. Like you're just doing, it's just this massive project, and you're doing it pro bono.
Yeah.
And it's like you're quoting and praying. And it's like, and it only takes you to do that a couple times, and where you're like, bro, this shit is not for me, man. And after a while, you're like, we call it setting the sale, like, right? Like, so, and usually in these situations is on these larger commercial accounts, they can't just go with you. They have to fire the old agent. So like, you know,
so then they have a chance to go back and underquote and all these things.
And it happens all the time. It
right?
happens to the amateur producer. They're just so excited to be in the game and potentially have the opportunity to get this deal. They don't ask this question. It's like, so part of that selling the sale is like, hey, look, we're going to go embark on this journey. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to deliver outstanding service. I can tell you exactly what this is going to look like. Here are the things that I don't know, but here's what I can promise. If everything you've heard sounds great, are you willing, if we get to this point that we've just said where we need to get to, are you willing to go back to your current agent and fire them? And you ask the question, and it makes them uncomfortable.
Yes.
But like, hey, we got to get this uncomfort out now, because otherwise this is just gonna block the deal later on. And it's like, then I put in all this time when I could have just asked this one question in the beginning and saved all the headache. But for the longest time early in my career, I didn't want to ask the question because it was uncomfortable.
No, we don't ask the question because we're also fear of missing out. We fear we're gonna, if that question's maybe too direct, we're gonna lose the deal. And so, but the best salespeople in the world don't realize that you don't lose something, you can't lose something you don't have. So, like, I'm not sitting around here and gonna run numbers for a client on Saturday and Sunday when they want to go to that credit union because the deal's a little bit better. Hey, is there anything that would stop? Yeah, man, I'm going to talk to other people. Well, at this point, dude, I don't have capacity.
Well, when's the last time somebody called you and said, hey, one of your team was too aggressive?
Never.
Right?
Never. I've heard it one time. It was a deal. Listen, so good. There's a guy, D-Saw, shout out to you. This guy's in Columbus, Ohio. I used to refer all our Ohio deals to him. I don't anymore, bro, because I'm in Ohio, baby. So, dude, I had one time I referred one of our clients to him, and they called me back, and they said, dude, I can't work with them. They're too aggressive. Biggest lender in Ohio.
Ooh, that's a clue. Success leaves clues. That's
right.
a clue.
Yeah, I'm like, well, he's like, there's
like,
a reason, man. We believe we don't.
Yeah, go offend somebody, and then tell me this doesn't work.
Somebody said the other day, one of our guys said,
So good, Rod.
if you're going to make mistakes, make full speed mistakes.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I hear that.
I don't like to pretend.
I don't like to pretend.
It also goes down to like the question, you asking the question, it's the way you can get better at asking the question with empathy, with curiosity, with deference. And that's, again, the encouraging word for you sales and marketing professionals out there is like, it'll never be this bad again. You're going to get better with reps. You're going to figure out how to ask it with just a little different tonality, and it's going to change the outcome. So
when they get tired of losing deals, that's what happens with my team. They got tired. Like Christy, I love it. She get tired of losing deals. And so Christy started asking them straight up, like, is there anything, hey, listen, we had a great conversation. You get a yes, right? Remember that? Hey, you get a yes, you get another yes. It's easier to get the third yes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So great
Love
conversation. Yeah, learned a lot. Cool. You're really comfortable with our experience. Oh, yeah, I'm super comfortable. Awesome. Is there anything that would stop me from being your lender?
Which, by the way, that's a no.
Pause.
You want the no there.
Yes, I want the no, dude. I want the
and
no.
it's like that. That's the fine line of pushing, right? They don't want to push. It's like, well, no, you've earned the right through every step of this conversation, and they don't know that you want to work with them.
Well, and
unless you remind them.
And the subtlety of what Taylor's talking about is you've watched people ask these questions, but they're super blunt.
Yeah.
And you can't be rude.
No.
Stop being rude.
Yeah. For
Just
sure.
like be nice.
Absolutely.
Like you can't be a dick. Like you'd be like, well, look, are you really willing to go fire this other agent? Like
That's right.
you can't. Like it's tonality. It's
Tonality.
and also like from a belief perspective, it's like if I ask this question, I'm gonna save them a ton of pain. Because we're not going to do this dance for a month and a half, and them have an extra person in the mix when they don't need an extra person in the mix. I'm doing them a service by asking this ahead of time because I know that I've worked with these prospects that I worked for 65 days, and I talked to them every single week, and they were already talking to somebody else, and they had to send me all the same information too. It's like we're doing a favor to the person that we're talking to. It's not just in your best interest; it's in the client's best interest.
Very true.
Didn't know that happened in both of our businesses. You work for free a lot. Yeah, 90% of the time I work for free. Actually, like literally. Yeah,
I heard a ratio.
By the way, so the operations team somehow gets mad because the deal comes in and like you said it earlier, like man, they don't have all the information, and the ops team's kind of frustrated. I'm like, hey, dude, you're working to get paid 90% of the time. Like you get paid 90. Like we have about a 10% fallout rate for inspections, appraisals. I'm working up front to get paid like. 10. I get paid 10% of the time for all the work I do.
Yeah, that's a good perspective.
Wow. Yeah,
Something to think about. Not to. There's no chicken egg. There's no ops is not greater than sales. Sales is not greater
Different
than ops.
lens.
But it's like it's just different lens. Like hey,
But
listen,
both sides could have more empathy for the other side.
that's how we do it.
Yeah,
like
right.
hey man, listen. I want to bring that deal to you as perfectly as I possibly can. But like on the other side, man, like I worked really hard to get an opportunity to get that deal. Let's cater as much as we can to this
What's
client.
the value of that one lead? That's what a lot of people lose sight of. What it took, how many touches, how many posts, how many calls, how many questions, how much empathy, you talk about going to where they're at, and then you bring them to where you're at, which is a live lead. It's like there's not a lot of people that understand how long that took and what the value of that journey has been.
Dude, it's why the first couple opportunities you get have to be magical. It has to be magical because you're still just in the 90-day, like I can fire you in the first 90-day phase, right? Like that's why we got the rules in Florida. You bring them in, you got 90 days, I get rid of you for nothing. You know what I mean? So that's how our referral partners are though. Like it's like they know it's business and they're looking at you like, I still got my other referral source.
Right.
Like I still got my other partner. This
Right.
better go really, really well. Right? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong
at all.
Dude.
You're not wrong at all.
And you're just like, oh God, is this the right system? Is this the right process? Are we gonna do it right?
Dude, I love
Anyways.
that. Dude, I
So
love that.
good,
Well, man, I don't know if you boys have a final question to sign off on. This is like it's always so tactical when we get together, and I love it because we get like granular and we go into like the nitty gritty. And I mean,
That's why I only get invited here once every 3 years.
Usually when you're invited, there's cigars involved.
Yeah, we need to do
Groundwater.
those.
How
We
do
need to
we
do
do
those
that?
on the show.
Yeah.
Why can't we do those
We
on the
should.
show?
We should do. You're gonna be the first one we do it with.
All right, I'm in. I'm
we
in
need a
for that.
humidifier in here.
I'll clear my calendar for that.
There we go.
sounds fun.
We'll
See, we're
meet-
talking about integration. You're gonna be smoking cigars anyway. Might as well smoke
That's
cigars
right.
with us.
Isn't that awesome? Let's do that. Let's do that. We'll even if we bring that to my side of this.
I was about to say, can't we do that at your house?
Yeah,
in
we'll
your
do
room?
it. We'll do it at mine. Yeah, we can do it in the room. Man, my wife would hate it, but yeah, we can do it.
Love you, Sherry.
Sounds amazing.
She's
Yep,
like
sure.
sometimes the smoke's coming down through the. Hey, listen.
It's in the house. I would ask to end it, Robby, I think about your son. I think about what he's going through and writing on his mirror. And I think about all the loan officers in your world that are going, all the insurance professionals, whoever it is in the world that is going through this. I'm doing the thing, but I'm not getting the result. How would you encourage that person in this market at this time in their phase of life to keep doing the thing?
Yeah. I mean, well, back to that Inku quote. Will you be committed to the process? You can even say it this way. Will you be committed to the process long after the way you said it initially has worn off? Like, will you be committed to getting those 100 closings a year? Will you be committed to those referral partners? I think the biggest thing that our people that are in sales, this is not just loan officers, like sales, insurance sales, all the sales have to be is this is a long game. And there's going to be times where it's great and it's rewarding and it's fruitful. And there's going to be times where it's not great, where you get punched and you're down and you're out. And will you just have the audacity to stay the course long after the feelings fade? You know, like we have to do that. We have to stay committed long after our feelings have faded, you know? And if you're called to this, like you talk, starting with that opening, are you, you're really coaching? No, I'm called to this. Like, this is what I was called to do. I was called to lead in the mortgage space. I was called to coach in the mortgage space. And all these people that are out there, have it be a calling, have it be something that just, if the baby doesn't jump in the morning, like Mary, it's biblical, but like Mary's baby jumped and she was excited and she was birthing Jesus. Like, dude, if your baby's not jumping about what you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Oof, love that.
Very good.
Well, the passion oozes from you, my friend. I appreciate all the attention and time, and super special and rich every time. And so next time you'll come to the back of the building instead of the front of the building. Yeah. So, the next 3 years.
2027.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Please share this with somebody who needs it. Be extraordinary.